Hello, my name's Ben here on Sin of Creation, and today we're going to be looking at the Talons of the Emperor in Warhammer 40k. So the Talons of the Emperor were first seen as plastic models in the Burning a Prospero kit, where they were set alongside the Space Wolves to fight the Thousand Suns. Now, they've recently released a box set that it's basically a collection of both the Sisters of Silence and the Adeptus Custodies, and allows you to take plastic armies in 40k. Now, you can get the codexes for these digitally, where I think they're about £5 each for each of these codexes, or you can get both the books within the box set, which is about £95 and gets you quite a lot of the kits. So let's have a look at some of the rules that we get in the new codexes. So first codex we're going to have a look at is the Adeptus Custodies. So in the lore, these are the bodyguards of the Emperor, and with the recent Gathering Storm lore, most of them have been sent out to help Imperial armies across the galaxy. So the Emperor's highest representatives practically. And with the new book, although it's not many pages like the Sisters of Silence one, you've got some nice artwork in here that's been seen before, but a little bit of lore to do with what they're doing in the 40k universe. Confirmation that Constantine Valdor's still alive, which is quite nice. Some really nice artwork of like the Dreadknots and the Custodies themselves. And then some of GW's painted miniatures, where some of them are a heavy metal team, others are part of their studio painters. And it's just really nice artwork, nice to see inspiration for the army, and I'll be using it for when I paint mine. Now move on to the rules. So same stuff you usually get on how to use them. They're counted as armies of the Imperium. So things that you can do with the Custodies in this edition is their detachment consists of 3 troop choices, 1 elite, and then you can take the Land Raiders as dedicated transports for the Custodian Guards. Now if you like the Sisters of Silence one as well, if you take 3 units of the standard choice, which in this case would be the Custodian Guard, you get a bonus rule in addition. So I'd have to take 3 Custodian Guards to get extra rules. Now, Custodian Guards come with Guardian Spears basic, which are +1 strength, I believe. Let's have a look. Custodian Spears, yeah, Guardian Spears. So +1 strength, AP2, 2-handed block. So it comes out at strength 6 AP2, and you can pick 1 attack and roll dice and try and block the attack by rolling a higher to hit roll, which is quite nice against things like power fist attacks, or if there's a strength 10 hit that might insta-kill something, I don't know. Custodies generally can't be insta-killed with Eternal Warrior, but if you've got like an Inquisitor or something in the unit, it could be nice to defend them. They come with Deep Strike, 2-up save and a 5-up invuln now, which they didn't have before. They had the 2-up save and the Deep Strike, but the 5-up invuln is new, because before you had to take a formation of up to 3 units and the invuln got better the more you had. Things I've also noticed is that you can get the Sentinel Blade, which is the other close combat weapon, which is shown here alongside the shield. Now they come with a Power Knife basic, which is essentially a power sword, but you don't have to pay for the shield now to take the sword, which means that you can take 2 close combat weapons in each hand, giving them an additional attack, which alongside your banner, which gives you +1 attack, is pretty good. I mean, 5 attacks, 6 on the charge on a basic guy with a power weapon is nice, and not even having to give up a shooting attack for it. They're very expensive compared to normal units at 260 points for a basic 5-man unit. Your Sergeant is practically though like a 2-wound chapter master, so I wouldn't worry about not having HQs in this list. The Dreadknots are Venerable Contemptor Dreadknots, so they're the same as regular Contemptors that you're able to get in 40k with the addition of the new Angels of Death supplement. But these ones have Adamantium Will, Aegis of the Emperor, which is a 5-up invuln, Deep Strike, which is really nice, and they have the Venerable rule for this they've had to spend the points for it, so it's 200 point Dreadnought, but the idea of having a venerable Contemptor Dreadnought with Deep Strike is amazing. The idea of Deep Striking in, destroying a tank, and then being able to shrug off most of the wounds is pretty good. The main thing that these have got different, I'm not sure if the Contemptor Dreadnoughts have got these, but it's got the option for something called a Kiri's Pattern Assault Cannon, which is very similar, but it's got 2 additional shots, which is nice, and it has to spend 15 points for that if you want that. Now, the final option in the book is the Venerable Land Raider, which is the same as regular Land Raiders, but similar to the Venerable Contemptor Dreadnought. It has a 5-up invuln, adamantium wheel, and the Venerable rule for additional points, so it would be 275 for this Land Raider. It also has a better machine spirit called a Magos class machine spirit, which means that it ignores crew shaken and crew stunned, but still loses the whole points. So the detachment that I was talking about earlier, which you get for this army, is you have to take at least 1 troop choice, but you can take up to 3 and 1 elite choice. All of them have to be from this book, which is pretty standard. You get to re-roll your warlord traits, which you get a whole set here. Units from the detachment that arrive via Deep Strike only roll 1 dice and can re-roll the result on the Deep Strike mishap, which is really nice. Makes your army a lot more reliable. And the bonus you get for taking 3, or the maximum amount of units that you have for this detachment, is that all Custodies units within 6 of at least 1 other unit get to re-roll invulnerable saves of a 1. So if you've got your Storm Shields on these guys, 3 up invuln re-rolling 1s is really good, makes you reliable at staying alive. And it's even good on your Land Raiders and your Contemptor. Now, the gear is pretty much the same as what we saw before, and in other codexes, apart from the Assault Cannon, which I think is new. Not entirely sure. But with this army, it's really nice to have an elite, like, small army that can hold its own in the game. It's like a Terminator army that works. So the Sisters of Silence were a faction made by the Emperor, who he used them as his main weapon against psychic powers. So they're what's called nulls, which is people who are like people without souls who can stop psychic powers from going off. Now, unlike the Custodies Codex we just looked at, these guys don't have any warlord traits or anything. I don't think they're designed to be taken as an army on their own, although I imagine that would be quite nice to field. But they do have quite a boost in their rules since their last release in Burning of Prospero. Now, like the Custodies Codex, you get a lot of pictures, some of which we've seen before, and a bit of lore about what they're doing in the 41st millennium. Again, it's very similar to the Custodies, that the Guilliman has asked them to go out and help other factions within the Imperium. Some of the heavy metal and their studio painting artwork, which is really nice, and miniatures. And they also show in this book down the bottom here that they've started to found other Sisters of Silence shrines, so you can do your own colour schemes of Sisters of Silence shrines that are around the galaxy, which is really nice. Didn't have that in the Custodies, but I can understand why they've done that. So onto the rules. So what they've done here is that all squads can take a Sister Superior, which is your unit champion, and a Null Maiden Rhino, which we'll move on to later as a transport. But with the different weapons, unlike the PDF we had before, which allowed you to spend points or swap weapons and whatnot, they've all been divided into different squads, costing different points. So the Vigilator squad, which is the one with the Great Blades, your only combat squad really, is the cheapest, at 65 points per 5, and your Prosecutor squad, which is the one with bolters, is 75 points for 5, and we'll move on to the Witch Seeker squads, which are the ones with the flamers, are 85 at the most expensive. Now all of them have got your Bane of Psykers, Fear and Psychic Abomination that they have before, and the Null Maiden Rhino is amazing for this because it's 45 points, which is 10 more than a standard Rhino. It's got the exact same upgrades that you can take as normal Rhinos, and abilities, but it's got Bane of Psykers and Psychic Abomination, the same rules that the Sisters of Silence have, for 10 more points, which is really nice. Now, their war gear is the same as before, but the detachment, which is a choice between 1 and 3 elite choices, all of which must be Sisters of Silence, you get an ability called Nauseating Aura, which means that Psykers and units with Psykers in them that are in combat with Sisters of Silence have their weapon skill reduced by 1, which is nice because their weapon skill 4, so if your weapon, the Psykers, your Psyker might be weapon skill 5, or in most cases be weapon skill 4, so it brings them down so that Sisters of Silence will be hitting better or they'll be hitting worse. And then you've got the Rite of Annulment, which is the ability they had in the PDF form in the formation, which means that for every Sisters of Silence squad that's above the first, you can take Warp Charge off your opponent. It also minuses 3 to the leadership, and they do not generate Warp Charge points unless it's a roll of a 6 within the psychic range, which is really nice. Now, the main thing I'd use these for is to stop like Psycho Death Stars, whatnot. Magnus gets pretty hurt by these guys, although they are very brittle. So in the box you only get 5 Sisters of Silence, but I've decided to add 5 more to my unit to make a unit of 10, and I've assembled them as Witch Seekers. And the reasoning behind this is because your army has small units, I thought taking a large unit of Flamers would help if I went up against Horde armies, help me get rid of infantry more efficiently, and it's just nice to have an anti-psyche unit that's quite durable. Now, they're the same models you get in the Burning of Prospero kit. They're really nice, really detailed. I've been a fan of the artwork for Sisters of Silence for a long time that was in the Visions of Heresy compendium, so it's nice to finally have models for them. So you also get a Null Maiden Rhino in the kit. This is just a standard Rhino for all cases, but I thought I'd convert it up a bit. So what I've done is, in Visions of Heresy, there's artwork for Under the Golden Throne of hover rhinos or flying rhinos going into the webway. So I decided to use this as inspiration for converting a model. So I've converted a Null Maiden Rhino using a bit of plasticard on the bottom, and then I've filled in the gaps with green stuff, put in hover plates from the land speeder to make it look like it can stay aloft with the guard at the front. Tried to shove as many Aquillas and like holy bits all over it, some Inquisition symbols, and then at the back we've got the wings that I've taken off the land speeder, and these are from Cities of Death, so I've shaven down the side that's connected to the tank and angled it so that it looks like wings. The back's also part of a land speeder, the jets. So this goes alongside my Sisters of Silence, so just thought it'd be a bit different to use in game. I've managed to make it so it will attach to a flight stand. So if I put it there, nope, come off. So there we go. Got Hover Rhino for flying alongside the Sisters of Silence. So I think the Flamers are the best option. If you want a unit that's a bit cheaper, I'd go for the Bolters, but the problem I've got with the Great Swords for these guys is that although they're cheapest, which is nice, you can't really, it's difficult to get into combat because you've got a foot slog, or if you're in the Rhino, it's not an assault vehicle, so you're stuck for a turn getting shot. And another problem with that is you can't use psychic powers to help them get into combat, so move them further, because they're immune to them. I'm trying to think of ways as best to help them. Maybe a cycle with Geomancy might be able to pull it off, just move the terrain they're on. But for the moment I'm happy with them just having flamer ones in the Rhino. So these guys in my army are obviously going to be hunting psychers for me, but they're also going to be hunting in large infantry squads, sort of popping in and out the Rhino, shooting 10 flamer templates at things, and jumping back in and flying around and holding objectives. So the next kit in the army I wanted to look at was the Adeptus Custodies, which we're also seeing in Burning Prospero. And the kit's really nice, it's really impressive. The models are massive compared to the Sisters of Silence, and even Terminators I think they're a bit bigger. So in game I wanted them to be a bit like a command squad for the army. So I went for like the banner, and you've got the champion over here. And they're very strong. It's nice that they've got a Land Raider as a transport, because they're able to charge out and dish out a lot of damage. Not that I see them having a problem with foot slogging, so I might take some more to deep strike in, possibly with the shield and swords. So with the army I've decided to take more Sisters of Silence than these guys, purely because I don't want to be outmaneuvered as much. But I'm really happy with how these models fit together, how they pose, and I hope to see them do a lot more in game. So another model I decided to convert that you get from the kit is the Custodies Dreadnought. So I thought the Dreadnought was a bit plain for the Custodies, because the Sisters of Silence and the Adeptus Custodies were very detailed compared to the other models. So what I've done is taken the shields from the Custodies kit that I didn't use to use as shoulder pads. My friend gave me a spare banner part, so I've used the wings on the legs. The hand is made up of the Venerable Dreadnought and the big robots that the Cult Mechanicus kit combined, so that it makes a nicer hand for the robot, so it's similar to the artwork. I've also used some old fantasy shields and whatnot for the body, and Imperial Knight symbols for the top of the body. So the other bit I've used is there's a old Tomb King Sphinx part which I've used to replace the head to make it into a skull, just to make it look a bit more venerable. Now in game these things are very tanky, deep strike in, probably kill another tank. And then you'll be able to run about and destroy at your leisure. The only problem is obviously getting outmaneuvered like the Custodies, because you're small elite units, and lots of large infantry units will be able to tie you down and capture objectives. So the final unit that you get in the Talons of the Emperor box is a Land Raider to transport your Custodies about. And like the other models that aren't specifically Talons of the Emperor, I decided to convert it up a bit to make it look a bit more Imperial Gothic and impressive. So I chose to put the guns at the front, and that allowed me to put some fancy doors at the back with Inquisition symbols and lights at the back. Put some trimming on from the Cities of Death like I did on the Rhino, and on the front and the top. Now in game it's nice to have something to put the Custodies across the battlefield in, so they don't get shot. With it being venerable, it's nice to have Ballistic Skill 5 on the twin-link guns, meaning you're highly likely to hit your opponent, take out tanks, and leave the Custodies and the Sisters of Silence to mop up the infantry. I probably wouldn't take more than one, just to ferry the one squad of Custodies around, because it's just too expensive to field that. But in future I think I'm going to be taking one more squad of Custodies and one more squad of Sisters of Silence, just to beef up the army. Probably get another Rhino for the Sisters of Silence. Now I also wanted to talk about, I'm probably going to be designing a Armies on Parade board for this army, having them actually going into the webway, and there's a scene in the Visions of Heresy book of Bloodthirster charging through the gate and the Sisters of Silence captain running in to stop it. So I wanted to use these models for that. So I'm also going to have some Mechanicus allies and whatnot, Probably going to spray these up all gold and silver and paint them all up ready for that, and when I do I'll be showing them on the channel. So we've covered all the units. I've been Ben on Sin of Creation. If you've liked the video, please hit like and subscribe, it helps out the channel a lot. I hope to have a video in the future for you of the finished army, and we'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye for now.